out there, Guitar Heroes. All right, today we're going to work on alternate picking, a way for you to speed up your lead guitar runs. And it's a pretty simple concept. All we're talking about is instead of all downstrokes, we would do a up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And that's about all there is to it. So let's zoom in and take a little closer look at some techniques that we can use. Okay, so the first thing you probably want to think about is having a thicker pick, 0.88 or 1, and I believe these are millimeters that these pick thicknesses are measured in. I like the Jim Dunlop because they're nylon and they don't break. So the stiffer pick is what you want to use for hitting individual strings as opposed to strumming, where you might want to use a lighter pick, and then the pick doesn't get stuck in your strings. Okay, so that's probably the first thing. And the other aspect, of course, is going to be making sure that we can find the string and how do I hold the pick. It's not a whole lot different than strumming, but one of the things that I recommend that you do is make sure that the tip of this pick, there isn't too much space between your thumb and your finger. In other words, only stick a little bit of this tip out, and that way you won't, it's less likely that you'll make errors finding the strings when you have just a little bit sticking out. So that's probably the first thing. Okay, so hopefully you can see my picking hand here. Okay, so the primary objective that we're looking for here is to develop muscle memory to be able to move from a down, 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 down to a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So the first thing is just to get that motion and to practice it on some open strings. So hopefully you can see my pick motion. And after you do that for a while, and I recommend doing it on a number of strings. Now, by just moving the pick through the strings without looking eventually, and develop that muscle memory so you can move from one string to the other without getting mixed up. So practicing this simple exercise of back and up and down, up and down, up the strings from the low to the high or from the high to the low. Those are basically the things to do so that you can develop that muscle memory. So you probably need to work on this for a few weeks. And you know, it's not like you're working for an hour a day, but maybe 5 or 10 minutes you want to work on it. And you do each one of the individual strings. You move from the high to the low, and back from the low back to the high. And then gradually you can pick up your speed. Once you get comfortable. The other thing that you can do to eliminate boredom is to actually fret some strings. Now, you don't want to do that right away because you want to make sure that you're focusing on nice even up and down strokes so it sounds nice and smooth. Once you think you got that on an open string, then you can start fretting the strings to make it just a little bit more musical and a little less boring. And you can change up your timing too. It doesn't have to all be the same exact timing or faster. You can 2 hits. And then you can move on to doing this simple scale that we have, the E minor pentatonic, which I demonstrated at the beginning of the video. And we can throw in a couple blues notes too. a little bit of practice, you can actually get to that kind of a speed. And I really surprised myself, because as I was playing through this with all downstrokes, and then I started kind of evolving a little bit with some of this alternate picking, and all of a sudden I said, holy criminy, I can play that fast, and with a little bit of practice, and it really surprised me. So again, is a good example of how the speed increases so much, and the effort is much less too. So hopefully that gives you something to get started with. Again, I would probably think about weeks or a month of practicing this, and probably much longer to get totally proficient. But start with the single strings. Then once you get comfortable with a single string, one single string, then start moving from the high E up to the low E, and then back down to the high E. And then once you have that under your belt, then start fretting some strings. And then move that around too with different strings. And then once you start feeling good with that, then you move on to our basic scale, the E minor pentatonic. And that should get you down the road a ways, and make you much better and more proficient guitar picker. All right, well, I hope you got something out of this lesson. Take it easy out there, and we'll see you next time.